I guess firstly, I'm sure you would have seen the squad overnight. And I guess firstly, you must be pretty chuffed and happy for your Queensland team at Marnus Labuschagne getting a last minute call up ahead of the tournament.
Yeah, it's really funny. He just weasels his way in there, doesn't he? Just lurks in there when he shouldn't. At the start when he didn't get picked, you kind of understood why he didn't get picked. He struggled in the format for a couple of years to really find his feet, particularly at the international level. But he's batted absolutely beautifully the last 5, 6 games. And it's funny, you give Marnus an opportunity and he very rarely ever misses out. So, I was expecting, even when he went over, we were sort of giggling and sort of said, no, you're getting that World Cup squad. He's like, well, I've got an opportunity to, so maybe I will. So, yeah, it doesn't surprise me that he's in there.
I guess the one thing that's really improved over those last 6, 7 games has been his tempo with his batting. He's scoring at pretty much a run a ball now, which has kind of been his, I guess, issue in the 50 over format. Is that something that has really surprised you, the fact that he can shift gears so quickly, or do you just know he's always been capable of sort of switching that gear and playing that more aggressive role?
No, it's been great to see. He's felt a bit negative, even playing Queensland games. He's playing with them last 2 or 3 years in one day cricket. He's looked more to get off strike, get ones rather than hit boundaries. If you hit boundaries I always say you work backwards in one day cricket. You go 4, 3, 2, 1. You look for the boundary, and if you can't get that, you work back down. Where I think he's been a little bit the other way. He's been trying to get himself into the innings and maybe overcomplicating it a little bit. But I think the fact that he's actually trying to score runs now, be positive, be aggressive. Usually, when you start doing that, a little bit of luck falls your way anyway, and then you put more pressure on the bowlers. He always had it in him. He's played some beautiful innings for Queensland in the past for us, and I think he's sort of found that form again now at the international level. But it's always hard to do at the international level because the spot was never certain. He was always trying to find his feet. It still isn't. It still isn't certain. So I think for him to go out there and do it, it kind of all worked out well the way it happened, and he really had nothing to lose, and I think it was a perfect scenario for him to go and bat, and he's batted beautifully.
The risk with him coming into this squad, of course, is there only being one strike spinner with Adam Zampa now. Like, considering the first few Australian games seem to be on pitches that are expected to turn a bit, do you see that as a bit of a gamble? And I guess, do you trust Glenn Maxwell to take on that second spinner role for the first few games of this tournament?
I mean, Maxi can definitely play a second spinner role. It'll it'll just depend. I think they always like a spinner that can bat a little bit for the second one. Hence why Ashanagar was there, bowled a little bit of left armers, but also batted a little bit. If you look at the guys who are probably underneath them, Kuhneman, Tanvir Sangha, they don't really bat too much. So I think the selectors probably don't prefer a second spinner that doesn't bat. If you look at the Indian team, they normally have one strike spinner, and then they have one of the great all-rounders in the world with Jadu Jadeja. So that balances out the team really well. But not having a second spinner in the squad, I think in an ideal world, 100% they would want two spinners in the squad. But Ashanagar's not there. So I think they've kind of had to think on their feet and find another solution. And one spinner, I saw Tanvir was traveling reserve. I don't really know what that means, but I think he's around. I don't think you would have played two leggies. I think you would have played a spinner and a finger spinner, hence why Maxi's there. So, I mean, either way, Maxi's going to have to do the job. And I think as the game and as the tournament progresses, those wickets are going to start spinning more and more as they get more tired. So, yeah, it's definitely going to play a big part in this World Cup.
I guess now that Travis Head is still in the squad, but it looks like he's going to miss at least the first few group stage games. It seems likely that Mitch Marsh will now open, and it's not a role he's done a lot in the past, but when he has had that opportunity, he's done fantastically at the top of the order. Considering you have opened in India before and have opened very successfully before, do you see him as someone who could take on that role, partner with David Warner, and do a job at the top of the order in this World Cup?
I mean, so far, small sample size, but he's done beautifully. He's actually done really well in India too, because they had that series there last year where he batted really well, smacked him, struck it over 100 comfortably, and he was doing it again the other night. Got out in the 90s, obviously, but he just looked unstoppable after he got to 50, from 50 to 96 or whatever he got out on. He just looked unstoppable. So if you can get Mitch Marsh on small grounds, in form, hitting the ball hard, he can be destructive. He can literally take a game away from you. So if he stays the way he is, I've got no doubt that he can perform up the top, in India particularly. But at the end of the day, just to be about the balance of the team, because they have battered him a lot at 3 and 4 in recent times. Now they've had to push him up with Heady. And I think, yeah, he's just going to have to fill that role in until Travis Head is fit again later on in the tournament, hopefully sooner rather than later. But at some stage, he's going to be hopefully fit again, and then he's going to slot him back at 1 or 2, whoever faces the first rock. And then he has to come back down to 3 or 4. I suspect 4, with Smithy probably batting 3. But we're going to have to wait and see what happens there. I think he's adaptable enough to do it. Will it make a difference to the team? Not really sure. Heady and Mitch Marsh at the top, both capable batsmen. So I think they'll be fine.
I think I don't know how much of this recent one-day series you saw with David Warner. He got a fantastic start in each innings, but then had a few kind of bizarre dismissals. He was batting right-handed at one stage. He sort of fell over the crease, sort of was given out.
Wasn't even out. He wasn't even out there.
Exactly. It smacked him into his own pad. I guess he's obviously trying this new kind of, he's experimenting a little bit ahead of this series, but is he trying a bit too hard? Should he just trust his instincts, what's worked for over a decade, and just see the ball and smack it hard? Like, what have you seen from his batting so far in the past 3 or 4 ODIs?
I think I've heard him talk about batting right-handed to Ashwin for the last 5 years, I reckon. So he finally did it. It was nice. I wish he just stayed there and just hit him over cow. But he went right-handed and then went back to lefty. Davey's always been a player, and that's been a great asset of his. He plays from the seat of his pants. He takes the game on. He can change the game by just the way he plays. A natural player, a bit like myself. We're not very, regimented in how we do about things. We're more fluid, where some of the other players are a bit more structured. He's not. So I think he just needs to stick to it. If he's getting 60s and 50s consistently, honestly, that's the hardest thing to do. So if he's doing that, he's going to score big runs at some stage. No doubt. If Dave Warner keeps getting 50s and 60s, he's going to score 100. He's going to score 140. He's going to score 150. It's going to happen. So I'd be more worried if he was getting out in single figures. When that starts happening, that's when it can be tough work to find your confidence and form again. Well, I don't really believe in form, but confidence again. So for Davey, that's going to be, he's going to be going into the World Cup, I know, with full confidence because of the way he's been batting. He's been contributing. Yeah, he hasn't been getting massive ones, but he's doing his job at the top, contributing. He scored at 120 the last game, like a strike rate. He was absolutely blistering. I mean, that's what you want from your openers. You want them to get off to a good start, hopefully carry on, but that doesn't always happen. So I have no worries for Davey.